ये प्रिपेयरिंग हो जाने के बाद जो ये विंडो रहेगा उसको क्लोज कर देना है। ऐसे क्या होगा, इसका जो साउंड होगा वो भी बाहर आएगा। कैप्चर कर लिया।
लास्ट वाले में कौन है?
ये म्यूट कर दो, म्यूट करो, एडिट म्यूट करो।
अच्छा, हम नहीं आते।
साउंड आउट, साउंड आउट
Yes. That's serious. Yeah, that's probably the
Not there, yeah.
Earlier, like MPs and all that, local it would better than
I see. That's probably newer institute. Some of the institutes they have their own. Yeah, this is a-
Yeah, 100 point, yeah, but now it has. Meeting like purchase. Right, contact.
So you have this IEA.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, this is another problem. This creates another level of problems. Then related to that, you have this problem. We so far we have, don't have this IEA.
We have, they have been compulsory.
Yeah.
We are having next all those are ex-IAS or we have.
You have to call them quite often and then they come there. This is again, it's problem.
They are highly paid for one visit, they are charging 25,000. But you have to do something. Extra work.
I'll be talking a little bit about that also today. How it is really difficult for academicians.
It is, but for small institutions, I mean, we cannot have, you can't spare one position.
That's true. You need a.
Yes, you need a full-time administrator at the appropriate level.
Level only for that.
But if somebody from administration itself is appointed as the vigilance, that is complete opinion. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Like.
ইন্দ্র বলতে ইন্দ্র দাশগুপ্ত মানে ওই তনুশ্রী না তনুশ্রীও থেকে 1 বছরের সিট মানে আমার ব্যাচের নয়, আমার মনে হয় তনুশ্রী থেকে ইন্দ্র হয়তো একটু সিনিয়র হবেন নাকি, একই ব্যাচ, তাহলে ওই 1 বছরের সিট। I used to meet the probation. It's widespread সবাইকে এফেক্ট করছে না।
was not actually the commission of 7 people.
Everybody needs.
Yeah.
Extra, yes.
আগের সিটগুলো খালি আছে ও তো বসে যাবে ওই বিষয় তো হবে না
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you all to the closing ceremony of Vigilance Awareness Week Program 2024. Vigilance Awareness Week is one of the participative vigilance initiatives of the Central Vigilance Commission in the fight against corruption. It is an awareness building and outreach measure which aims to bring together all the stakeholders. It is observed to create greater sensitivity about the need for ethics and transparency in governance and public administration. The Commission endeavors to promote integrity and eradicate corruption with the active support and participation of all citizens. Every year, Vigilance Awareness Week is observed in the week in which the birthday of Bharat Ratna Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel falls in. We will start today's program by lighting of lamp by all the dignitaries present on the dais. Today we have Professor Topun Kanti Pine as the chief guest for today's event. I request Professor Shankhamitra Bandyopadhyay, Director ISI, to felicitate Professor Pine.
Thank you so much.
Professor Preeti Parashar, CBO of the Institute, will now felicitate the guest of honor of today's event, Dr. C.A. Taklikar. Now, Professor Preeti Parashar, the Chief Vigilance Officer of the Institute, will give the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the closing ceremony of the Vigilance Awareness Week 2024 at the Indian Statistical Institute. The chief guest for today's program is Professor Tapan Kanti Payan, Vigilance Officer at the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, Kolkata. He's a senior professor in the School of Chemical Sciences at IACS. The guest of honor is Dr. Chandrasekhar Taklikar, Vigilance Officer, All India Institute of Hygiene and Public Health, Kolkata. He is a professor and also the head of the Department of Health Promotion and Education. I would like to express my gratitude to both our guests for accepting our invitation and extend a very warm welcome to them. We are very happy to have in our midst the director of the Institute, Professor Sangamitra Bandyopadhyay, and we are very grateful to her for her gracious presence on the occasion. A very warm welcome is also extended to Sri Ravindra Kumar, Chief Executive, Administration and Finance, ISI. I heartily welcome all of you present here today and also those who have joined online. As you may know, and as was mentioned, the Vigilance Awareness Week is observed every year in the week that contains the birthday of our highly revered leader, Bharat Ratna, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who was evidently an epitome of impeccable honesty and integrity. This year, the Vigilance Awareness Week was observed from 28th October to 3rd November with the theme, Culture of Integrity for Nation's Prosperity. To commemorate the Vigilance Awareness Week, a mega event was organized by the Central Vigilance Commission at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi on 8th November. And it was addressed by the Honorable President of India. And I had an opportunity to attend that program. And several initiatives have been launched recently by the Commission in order to spread awareness and also to tackle the menace of corruption so that we can have transparent governance. So as a prelude, one of the examples is that as a prelude to this Vigilance Awareness Week, we had a 3-month-long campaign on preventive vigilance, which is very important as far as vigilance goes. Preventive vigilance with a focus on areas such as capacity building, implementation of systemic improvement measures, and updation of circulars and manuals, etc. The Institute also organized an online essay competition, and the winners will be announced shortly. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that it's very important for us to remain vigilant in our individual capacity as an institute and also as society. However, it's strongly urged not to misuse these provisions to harm someone. Therefore, vigilance should be exercised judiciously. Once again, a very warm welcome to all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request Professor Sangamitra Bandyopadhyay, Director, ISI, to address the audience.
A very good morning to all of you. Our chief guest, Professor Pine, guest of honor, Dr. Taklikar, right? Yes. The name is a little difficult for me to remember, but Dr. Taklikar from Institute of Public Health and Hygiene, Chief Vigilance Officer of ISI, Professor Preeti Parashar, and our Chief Executive Mr. Kumar, all colleagues who have come here. We are concluding the Vigilance Awareness Week program, which is a requirement of the Government of India, but we have to see this as not just a compliance of government instructions, but something that we have to be, as our CPO already mentioned, build into ourselves as a part of our culture, to be vigilant, to conduct ourselves honestly, with integrity, and doing whatever we do in an ethically correct way. We have to be answerable to ourselves, to our organization, to our colleagues, and to our nation. So I think vigilance, of course, having such awareness programs is necessary, but the ultimate awareness will really come when, from a very young age, when this culture of vigilance, culture of integrity and value system is ingrained into the young minds. So it is only through education that we can hope that we will. So it is only through education that we hope that we will build in a culture of integrity and honesty in our system, and that will reduce the requirement of having all these awareness programs more and more. So without education, it is not possible to uproot corruption from it, and unless this corruption gets uprooted, this country will actually not fare very well. 2047, that we dream of becoming a developed country before the 100th year of our independence, that will be very difficult to achieve unless this culture of honesty and integrity is built into our very psyche. Our very education has to actually create individuals who value these qualities very highly. Sometimes I see these days that these values are actually perceived to be a mark of stupidity. Oh, you are honest means you are stupid. Such a stupid way of putting it. So I hope we can rectify the system from its root. But till then, through these awareness programs and through the lathi of the vigilance, which is there, the stick of the vigilance, but at the same time, to be very much aware, as Professor Parashar mentioned, that vigilance should not be used, this instrument should not be used to harm anyone, to settle personal grievances, personal problems. Very often, being at the helm of an institute, and I've talked with many directors of different institutions, where it is quite a common knowledge these days that this provision is being misused quite a bit to harass people, to try to harm people. That is where that line has to be drawn. And I hope that tendency, that attitude will also go away in the years to come. But we will all remain vigilant. And in this institution, I hope it will be these provisions would rarely need to be exercised. There is a fine line between a mistake and a corruption. Okay. And that line has to be recognized. Very often mistakes are posed as corruption, and then well, if it is a mistake, it can hardly be punished like corruption. We all are aware of that, but then it wastes a huge amount of time in trying to establish that if there has been something wrong, that was not a malified intent, that was a mistake. So this fine line has to be recognized not just by the vigilance officer, by the people in the vigilance department, but by every individual, and try not to use such provisions for negativity. So with those few words, I hope and I thank Professor Parashar and Shalini is there for running the office. I thank my past vigilance officers. They have been helping the institute quite a bit. So I hope all of us will be aware of what is right and what is wrong, and will not take the wrong path. We will remain on the right path, which may not be a shortcut, of course, but then it ultimately pays. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, we would request Professor Topun Kanti Pine, Vigilance Officer, Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, and the chief guest for today's event, to say a few words.
Oops. Everything is being blocked. Just dealing the. Put it directly from the pen drive. This is very easy. Yeah. That's okay. Can I control?
Remove slide present.
Sorry for giving you trouble.
You can just start speaking by the time.
Yeah, sure. All right. Very good morning to everybody, and thank you very much, Professor Bandopadhyay and Professor Parasar, for having me here. This is probably the first time that I have entered the campus of ISI. It's because my subject really doesn't have any overlapping with this institute. I'm a trained chemist, and obviously because of that, I didn't have really any opportunity to come to these great institutions and a temple of higher learning. What I'm going to talk about today on this particular occasion is about kind of, as Professor Bandopadhyay was telling, a culture of vigilance, particularly in workplace where we work, like the academic institutions. They are very different from typical government offices or the places where regular public dealings are done. And as I said, that I'm not really an expert in this area. I'm a practicing scientist, an academician, and I have been in academic administration for several years. And recently, I have been entrusted with this responsibility of this Chief Vigilance Officer at ISES. Whatever I'm going to talk today is something all of you know. But I just put it together the way I understand that what the corruption, vigilance, and the culture of vigilance at workplace should be. So this is my thought. Obviously, every institute has its own way of, can you please go to the next slide? So as you all know that, that what corruption is. The public perception of corruption is more like abuse of power, or just to take benefit through immoral behavior or activities. And this corruption is not only limited to financial things. It's not just about money. Corruption can have a different manifestation. It can have a very different way one can look at it. And obviously, because of this corruption, what it weakens the trust, weakens the democracy, it hampers the development, be it in a state, a country, or even a small organization like ours. So as you can see that quite often we talk about that bribery that kills. Wherever we go, we give something to the officers dealing with a public job or public duty. But this is not necessarily always about bribery or giving money. There are other things, as you can see, that is very, very important is the favoritism to friends or to known people. It's more common than bribery. And that often comes to this under the ambit of corruption and vigilance. So, all right. So you can see that what happens that, right, in a workplace like ours where we purchase a lot of things. So giving this favoring some tenderer or some vendor is also considered to be a favoritism, and it's also a corruption. Or giving priority to process a friend's case, or use of bonus points for official work. Many of earlier we had this Air India thing, but nowadays we don't have. So we gain mileage when we travel in airlines, and then if I use that mileage that is actually accumulated for my travel, and then if I use that accumulated bonus travel amount, and if I use it for my personal purpose, that's also a corruption. So these are again, there are a lot of fine lines, but there is another problem is that lack of objectivity. Sometimes what happens, we are moved by our emotional way. Like emotional connections become bigger compared to what is the real situation and what is the purpose for doing something. So other than reality, emotion becomes a major issue, and then all these issues automatically come. And most important is this one is the conflict of interest, particularly for academicians. This is a very, very important thing. But as Professor Bandyopadhyay was telling, there are always a fine line that one has to really think about. There are gray areas here as well. So what are those gray areas? Sometimes, improper or inappropriate action may be corruption, but that corruption, from my point of view, could be considered as a corruption. But from the other side, it's a very different thing. It's something like, say, a decision-making process. A head of an organization or any department decides something, and that has some reason or logic of doing this decision. But if you look at the receiving end, particularly like applicant, candidate, and other things, their perspective is also very, very different. And also this recruitment process. Because as I was telling this morning to Professor Parashar that, the most of the vigilance issues that come to us are related to recruitment. Now, the recruitment for an academic organization and a recruitment for a public office are very, very different. Here, we have to really take care of people who are experienced and who have an expertise to work with people like scientists or academicians, rather than giving too many, degrees and other things associated with that. So whether that experience is a general experience or that experience is the experience that you need for your organization. And we do really get so many vigilance complaints, particularly on the recruitment process. And often we do get stuck at this point, deciding that what is the wrong and what is right there in the decision-making process, when that has been done by a duly constituted committee. Some experts put their thoughts there, and they found that this candidate is actually suitable for this organization. This is not like a staff selection committee, staff selection commission, or like IACS way of selection. So all these things sometimes really are very, very different that things. But as you know that, all of you know this, but as I said, that I'll put together the way I thought of. The causes of corruptions are many. A country like ours, such a big a big democratic setup, which has a colonial legacy, and a high population. So several issues that actually deals with corruption is the size and structure of an organization. A bigger institute and a smaller institute has a very different problems. And also the age of an institute. Institute like my institute, which is 150 years old institute, the problems are very different because there are legacy issues. And those legacy issues, when they conflict with the government policies, then situation really become a very topsy-turvy ride. So, and also the quality of the institutions, whether it's a reputed institute or whether it's an institute is not that reputation. And these have bearing also on the issue related to corruption. Also, you can see the salary of employee, workplace freedom, but what I would put more focus is on these cultural determinants. And this cultural determinants, in fact, encompasses all the other causes of corruption in a given place, be it in a country or in a workplace. So when we talk about culture and corruption, culture is used in a more neutral connotation. However, corruption is always in a negative way that we look at it. Therefore, it has already been shown by many different studies, by psychologists, by people who work with such kind of market-oriented research and corruption, and also economic and political research have suggested there is a huge correlation between high level of perceived corruption and more unequal societies. So unequal societies where materialistic rewards are often important for the survival that gives rise to corruption quite often. That arises because the personal relationship sometimes makes a bigger role or sometimes that dominates over others is because I can get my things done faster than others because I know someone in the higher office. And this is something that gives rise to a lot of other problems, and we take advantage with the different type of dealings. And this personal relationship, as I said, why this is cultural, because this personal relationship actually that stem from social and cultural norms, the status, the reputation, shame, guilt, peer pressure, many things actually come together, and that has a connection with this kind of corruption that takes place. But I must say this, that it is not that everybody is corrupt because the culturally this system is completely corrupt. That can never. So here question comes that there is another paradox here. The paradox is that there are conflicting values of public duty and social obligations also. Because often we deal with people, we deal with our relatives, we deal with family members, friends, and that where legal rules or formal way of dealing become less important than getting things done in a different way. And therefore, sometimes this forces to take resort of corruption and like everybody is doing that, so let get my work done this way because this is what it is. And in this process, corruption keeps on increasing because everybody is trying, then it is more like a cascade effect. So when you have one corruption, I am taking advantage of that and I'm getting my things done before someone else, that we encounter every day. If you go and just stand in a queue in an office place, and you will find that somebody else is coming, using their power, using their connection with the higher office or the people working in that office, they are going immediately. And being a law-abiding citizen, you are standing there and you'll keep on standing there for the rest of the day because everybody is coming and getting their work done. And this has a cascade effect because then you will feel, oh, okay, I wasted one day, next day I have to again go to the queue, and instead of doing that, let us now take help of somebody in getting my things done. And all of us encounter this every day, every moment when we deal with the public deal. So therefore, this socially sometimes that becomes legitimate. And now the point is, when this is socially legitimized, we encounter those in our everyday moment. Then question comes, what happens in workplace? We are people from the same society. Then when we come to the workplace, this reflects in the workplace as well. That let's get my things done. And this is something that like institute like this, Temple of Higher Learning or my institute or many other institute or any academic institutions, where we create future generation of people, academicians or public servant or whatever it is, it should be the other way around. That it is not that we take things from the society, but as an institution where we make future generation of people, we should create a culture that actually go back to the society and things should change in the society. So this is the way how I look at this problem. So here, as we already discussed, this is quite a lot of topic. So the objective of vigilance in workplace or vigilance in general, the objective is to remain alert, to prevent corruption, and also to promote integrity, transparency, and accountability in public administration in general, or in particular case in every sphere of our working domain. Now, as a vigilance officer, Madam Parashar also handles those things. This actually falls within our domain of work. Some I put it, in a gray because there are certain issues which are gray already. So from my experience, what I found that we often keep ourselves busy in handling like preparing list of officers of doubtful integrity or investigation of complaints with follow-up action. This takes most of our time. Then follows up of CDC's instruction. We keep on getting instruction every day. Now they have made a WhatsApp group. So every day, I don't know how many WhatsApp message do you get, madam? I don't know. It's sometimes so difficult. And then everybody know that I am the defaulter, did not send the quarterly report. Earlier, it was not the situation. Now I can say that, oh, ISCS is in the list because they have not sent the quarterly report, because there has been no new edition than the previous quarter. So again, I have to send the same thing. I have to write nil, yet I have to send it. And if I don't send it, they will put it in the public place like WhatsApp group, and I'll be the person who everyone look, oh, this fellow is useless. So this is more like most of the times we spend, takes a lot of our time for these two. Then you have this, as I say, quarterly and annual report. And this is another most important work of Central Vigilance Officer is the Chief Vigilance Officer is the observation of Vigilance Awareness Week. But there are others which I'll talk about a little. But let me take a couple of minutes to talk about what kind of vigilance that our CVO have already laid down in their book. The most important is the proactive vigilance. The proactive vigilance is something that we are doing today, is organizing this awareness camp for the last 3 months. And today, this week is the last week of this awareness camp, where we would like to bring awareness among employees towards the transparency in our day-to-day activity, whatever the work it is, whether it's a public dealing, whether it's a work with the scientists, students, faculty members, or whatever it is. Then comes the preventive vigilance. And the preventive vigilance is something like restrain the act of misconduct, like to strengthen the culture of vigilance, so that everybody is alert. If they think that there is a possibility of some problem, there is a perceived corruption somewhere, they'll just flag off this thing, and this flagging will help to propagate through the community, and so that the people who will participate in that will become now really happy. So this is a preventive. Then there are places, another one is called predictive vigilance. This predictive vigilance is something like, we know that this is the area where there is a possibility of corruption. And we can take care of that by taking appropriate measure, and so that, and also we can manage against any kind of misconduct, corruption, or other lapses. Then we have other type of vigilances. We rarely deal with these things like detective vigilance, punitive vigilance, and corrective vigilance. I'll not get into those in details. But as I said, first three vigilance that I say, our primary work domain encompasses those. But the last three, which are here, and if, which is like scrutiny of returns of immovable or movable assets. We take every year the immovable returns or movable returns, whatever, we take it from employees, every employees. But do we really go through it, analyze it? Or monitoring rotation of staff in sensitive areas? It's also difficult because it is in a workplace, it's sometimes difficult. Somebody is doing work perfectly fine in an office. He used to, students are happy, staffs are happy. That's okay. It's going on for a long time. But generally, we rarely get any time to get into all this particular issue. Then review our procurements of materials and service contracts. This is another area which creates a lot of vigilance issues, like procurements of materials, tendering process, big budget equipment, and surprise inspection and scrutiny also comes under the domain of Chief Vigilance Officer. But let me tell you honestly, if I start doing all of these things, I have to stop my research and I have to tell my students to go home and I'll do only administrative job. 12 hours every day I have to then spend. And this is really, really impossible for Chief Vigilance Officers who are also practicing scientists. So it is difficult. But then how we can actually make it minimize this problem? This only way we can do this by creating consciousness and conducting our everyday work life. So the primary, perception that I feel quite often that I don't care. I mean, as long as my work is being done, what is happening in the institute? Who cares? This is a problem. If we all contribute, then obviously a single person like the Chief Vigilance Officer or head of the institute or others in the departments or head of the departments, they really don't need to worry much. So therefore, we also, we have some people have lack of sensitivity, ignorance, also lazy, what is there? I have to write a letter, send it to CVO, the CVO will send it later. Then again, the Chief Vigilance Officer will send a letter to me to verify if it is I am that person or not. So it's a lot of problem. Also, lack of transparency in our value system. Some people think that, okay, it's okay, it's fine. I mean, corruption is there everywhere in the world. What is the big deal? And let it be as it is. And the main problem is the lack of examples of really that someone is doing great in terms of vigilance. There is someone who is a whistleblower, and upon whistleblowing, subsequent actions have shown that he has found something very, very serious that somehow created not only the bad reputation of the institute, but also corrected the system. So it's also a problem, whether it's a reputation and a good workplace culture, what are more important. And then if we don't do that, those type of people, they always blame governments. But who are on the receiving end? It is we, all common people are in the receiving end. So therefore, the more it is the responsibility. And some people also fear of being ill-treated. This is actually a majority of the people. They say that, if I write something, my institute or my organization will always, isolate me, and then they will, make my life miserable. But let me tell you very honestly, many of the whistleblowers that I know of in my organizations and some other organizations, it's not really the case. That happens, but absolutely, one has to really look at this fine line as Professor Bandyopadhyay was telling, that what is wrong and what is really a corrupt behavior. Sometimes mistake happens, but corrupt behavior varies. One has to flag it and one has to report. within the system, and that definitely needs to be taken care of. And nobody is going to harm the individual who is flagging that problem. Because now we have a law. In 2010, a law has been enacted, which is called the Whistleblower Protection Act. And this now protects your privacy and also your safety in the workplace. So there is absolutely no problem. Now, just quickly, I'll go through what are the source of corruption at workplaces. As many of us know, that corruption occurs sometimes what is unseen. We don't see those things. Let's say some employee who doesn't know that what should be, they are not properly trained. What needs to be done, what should be done, what should not be done, what is legal, what is illegal. So that requires a little bit of training, nothing else. But this also matters a lot in many places. As I talked with many CEOs, they also talked about this, that it's sometimes tempting to act corruptly. Here question comes about ethics, morality, and integrity and many other things. But these are words, nobody can teach others. These are something during the upbringing, these are already imbibed in the system, inside oneself. So a person becomes trained in the year of upbringing. Those are the qualities that they get it. It is something that I cannot teach a student, that how to be morally correct or how to be, ethically correct. So this is sometimes that this happens. An employee may feel uncertain about their employment, like say those who are not in permanent positions. So they want to satisfy somebody of their superiors so that they can get the job, permanent position there, because we often drive our own thought process more emotionally rather than practically. So we think of, oh, this fellow is working here for a long time. He's not permanent. Why not really think more about it? And that then person also get a feeling of that, okay, probably if I satisfy the need of that person, then this probably my job will be secure in this position. So this is also one thing. And then sometimes some people do not get promotions, right? Promotions are denied or something. We also get a lot of vigilance queries on those things, but promotion is less in my organization, at least. We don't get a lot about this promotion issue. Some people are not really good, well paid. And also sometimes some people might have some financial difficulties, that those financial difficulties tempted some individuals to take resort of this corruption, financial corruption or other. And this is another important point, the organizational culture. The organizational culture, why I say this, let's say culture of blindness. If in an organization, if you say that, oh, nobody cares what is going on there, then this corruption increases. Furthermore, informal rules. This is another problem. If in an organization you have too many flexible rules, then I have my own way of interpreting things. And that interpretation sometimes lead to a culture of corruption. That's why I call it an organizational culture and efficiency culture. That nobody cares whether I do really work well, I do give my best, or whether I'm judged properly every year based on my efficiency and my commitment to the organization. So a sound administrative structure, what I always think of this way, can be of combating corruption cannot wait. So if there is something, immediately a systematic preventive work and dealing with suspicion of corruption efficiently and transparently should be done immediately. And if authority shows that corruption is absolutely not tolerated in any organization, if this is the policy, this cannot be tolerated, and it would be dealt rigorously and transparently. And this way we can actually enhance the trust of all the stakeholders of that organization. And everybody, administrators, employers, employees, everybody have this responsibility. And they should feel proud of their organizations that they are doing really good for the organization. So I'll just finish by showing that how nurturing a culture of vigilance at workplace one can do. And I always say this in my workplace, that there must be a clear rules and guidelines. There should not be any gray area about the rule book. Rule book means rule book. And everything should be written in black and white. No place for interpretation. If there is an interpretation, then I can interpret it one way, somebody else will interpret it in another way, and that in between those two interpretations, there is an area where corruption starts breathing. So this is one thing, and then ensure everybody understands the role in an organization. What is their job? And emphasize the importance of their work. Why that work is important for the growth of the organization and for the reputation of the organization. And also identifying and monitoring the risk area. The primary risk areas include procurement and purchase, disbursement, certification for some institutes or organizations who certify things like products or other things, and other strategic areas like when they work with delivery or other projects. These are the strategic areas. Then organize work in manner that minimize the risk of corruption. And here, I always say in my organization, a 2% decision rule. And that's why in the institute, we have this structure, director, and then could be deputy director or something, deans, and they put director, head of the departments, and other people. So I may do mistake, but if I discuss with others, somebody else might have a different opinion about it, how to go with this. So the probability of doing mistakes will be reduced drastically. So a decision in a group, and that's why where democracy means always, no? And also job rotation. Sometimes this is difficult for the administrator of an organization. You know, a person works in a place for 5 years, is used to it, get things done perfectly. Everybody is happy in that place. But then if you change that person, sometimes it's difficult. But as far as the office rule is concerned, this is one thing which needs to be done depending on situation. Obviously, this need not be very strict that every 2 years everybody will move here and there. That should not be the case. And control system. This control system means officially you can take use of high-tech things so that you can really. So the culture of vigilance at workplace includes also this conversation of avoiding corruption. This should be open. Let's talk about that things are going bad here in this place. The more you talk, people will know that this is the place you have to be very, very careful. So in this process, it will be also minimized and also lead by good examples, leaders like we who are in the positions of administration or serve the position in administration or as a CBO. It is our responsibility to really make good examples, and that good examples means avoid conflict of interest. That happens quite often, be it in a selection process. It used to happen more in earlier days. Now this has reduced drastically, or in a selection committee or in a committee for giving awards to somebody. This was a major problem. So we also have to create example, and so that we should not really entertain the people whom I'm familiar with and doing some favor for those people. And this, we should not give any benefit to colleagues or friends. Undue advantages. Broad guideline that I already talked about, and work in collaboration with other organizations, like this exchange of thoughts. A problem that how I deal with, Madam Parashar might deal in a very different way. So I can learn from her that, okay, in a situation like this, how I can handle this situation. Because every system is unique, and every problem is unique, and every problem has to be dealt in a unique way. Follow-up preventive measures that we normally do, most of the organizations, that's now also a regulatory requirements. And I like this, a dilemma exercise. And dilemma exercise is something, am I doing wrong? Am I doing it correctly? I'll go talk to my colleague. Do you think I'm doing it correctly? Every time if I ask these questions, then I think the health of any organization will really improve in terms of this. So to end, I would say this culture of vigilance at workplace is something that we have to practice. And it's not just practice, 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 and practice. Talk more, discuss with others, and follow these guidelines and procedures that I thought are important, might not work in every institute or organization. And this is a responsibility to all of us, not just the people who are sitting on the top. Everybody in the chain has this responsibility. And if we don't do that, we are not objective and we are not impartial. That means we are allowing the system to behave well. So I'd like to end by showing that let us all be being vigilant at the workplace, and this would give us not a sense of involvement, but also for the development, growth, and welfare of an
Thank you, sir. Now, today's guest of honor, Dr. C.S. Taklikar, Vigilance Officer, All India Institute of Hygiene and Public Health, will address the audience.
First, I would like to thank you, Professor Bandyopadhyay and Professor Parashar Madam, for inviting me as a guest of honor. I think Professor Pine, he has made my job easy. But some of the points he has already covered. So I will restrict to see, there are two parts, administration and employees are there. So we have different groups of employees from group C, B, and A. Now, usually we have the tendency officers are trying to control these and these are trying to control. Now, as sir has said, vigilance officer. So why means before appointing me as a vigilance officer, I could feel that difference, right? So the person who was not wishing me, the next day he started wishing, right? So maybe madam also might have experienced that. So suddenly you're like people start respecting you. But whether we should fear vigilance officer, right? Now vigilance officer itself is a sensitive post, right? Every 3 years, vigilance officer has to be changed. And before appointing a vigilance officer, his or her clearance is again required to be appointed as a vigilance officer. So I think we should know, as an employee, so basic things are like code of conducts, right? So if you don't follow certain rules, everybody is governed by the certain rules. CCS rules are there, conduct rules. So usually we never read the conduct rules, right? We mostly try to know our rights, but our conduct, that is important. And that may also lead to the vigilance issues, not only the corruption or taking money, that is not restricted to that. So we'll see what is, I will stick to the OEMs and guidelines, what is given, right? So as an employee, as a government employee, right? So administration will have vigilance. They will be, so madam will be strictly having vigil where it is going, or director madam will be, as sir has said, you need to change those who are in the sensitive post, like store section, in the accounts, the DDO, wherever. And mostly probably CPWD is looking after the maintenance and all that. So there are certain places where there is chances of corruption. So as sir was saying, that it's very difficult to change the person. If he is doing the job for 5 years, 10 years, why should we change? Okay. But the situation changed. At home now, little materialistic world. So at home, some neighbor is having a big 72 inches TV. So kid says, Papa, bring that TV to me. So things goes on changing. So never the person is same. So that's why this Vigilance Awareness Week and vigilance, and this has to be followed. So already all of us know this week. So sir has already covered this. Now this. So this is the what it has been given. What is the vigilance angle? So where we need to be careful that can attract the vigilance. Where vigilance clearance would be a problem. So these things are there, demanding of acceptance of gratification or anything. So these are the things already I think we know. Obtaining valuable things without considerations or without any inadequate consideration from a person whom he has or likely to have official dealings. Now here I would like to point out that means specifically officers and all that. So avoid dealing with the persons. Suppose like maybe some work is going on here, right? Some coloring work is there. So now you want to get some coloring at your home, right? So what we see, where I should go to find a person. That person is working here in my office. So I will ask him, avoid such things. Don't deal with the persons, those who are, if you are officially dealing with that any supplier, don't personally deal with that such kind of supplier. Those who are officially dealing with, you are an officer and you are dealing with the person, avoid dealing. But for the convenience, we try to do that. So avoid that thing. Opting off himself for any other person's any valuable things or pecuniary advantage by corrupt or illegal things. Possession of assets, right? Now, so many of our group A officers also, right? So if you don't, so every year you have to submit the immovable property returns, yes? So if you don't submit by 31st January, madam can withhold your vigilance clearance, right? So usually we are in work, we forget it. So gazetted officer, group A officers, they have to submit within this. Otherwise, your all further these things will be halted. Then cases of misappropriation, forgery, all these are there. And important thing, so this one. Any undue, unjustified delay in disposable of case, right? Any delay. Suppose you are some file is pending with you, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. You are not paying attention. That can also attract any. This comes under vigilance angle. This was added afterwards. So any undue, unjustified delay in disposal of case pursued after considering all relevant factors would reinforce a conclusion as to the presence of vigilance angle in the case, right? So anything is been delayed, make a point, put on the paper why delays are there. Otherwise, it can attract the vigilance angle. Then other irregularities, circumstances which will have wait carefully to. So already sir has taken. So just I want to mention that. So gross or willful negligence, reckless in decision making, right? When you make any decisions and blatant violations of systems, procedures, exercise of discretion in excess where no ostensible public interest is evident. So you are taking certain decisions, you're not considering this public interest. A failure to keep the controlling authority superiors informed in time. So if you are taking some decisions, you have to be inform your officers also super. So there has some of the irregularities where disciplinary authorities, with the help of the chief vigilance officer, should carefully study the case and weigh the circumstances to come to the conclusion where it is a reasonable ground to doubtful integrity. So this doubt, as sir has said, there are a lot many of vague things are there. Okay. So purposefully, usually, if you go through the rules, if you read, you don't understand. In first instance, it's very difficult. What is the misinterpretation of the rules? Very, very difficult. And many of the times, most of the authority is given with the administration. So ultimately, the discretionary power is there with the administration. So So where you require the vigilance clearance, right? So all inclusion, if you are like promotions and all that, you require then empanelment, study leave, or intercareer transfer. Every time you require an appointment to the sensitive posts, any training program in outside you are going, retirement, commercial employment, or repatriation. So all these are for the where you require vigilance. Now retirement also, before retirement, you require vigilance clearance. Otherwise, you will not get any pensionary benefits. Earlier, it was not there. Recently, in October, 10th October, the new guidelines have come for the vigilance. Then, pending complaints of the preliminary inquiry. So these vigilance can be withheld. Now see, what are the things? Allegations may include corruption, misuse of influence, misappropriation, moral turpitude. So this any sexual harassment case, right? Any complaint of sexual harassment, it comes under the moral turpitude. So this can also, vigilance clearance can be withheld. Okay. Then all these are the denial of any vigilance clearance. If you are involved in such things, vigilance clearance can be withheld, suspension or disciplinary proceedings, pending any FIR or charge sheet in your court, and non-submission of annual, as I said, or specifically for Group A officers, any minor or major penalty. If it is any minor penalty also for 3 years, vigilance clearance can be withheld. And for any after major penalty, 5 years, vigilance clearance can be withheld. And you are put into the sensitive list and watch will be kept on you. And differently, the case-by-case assessment can be done for any of the vigilance clearances. So as sir has already discussed, areas of corruption, procurement, sales, goods, and all enforcement. What already this has been discussed, how you can reduce this corruption. So now this is like Integrity Pact, and this is recently they have been appointment of the independent external managers. Like they will mostly they are the, so where the purchase is more than 25 lakhs. So a lot of equipments where you purchase cost is higher. So you have to appoint this independent external monitors has to be there. They will scrutinize all your purchases, whatever things have been purchased throughout that your financial year. So twice in a year that has to be scrutinized, and this has been made now mandatory CVC that you have to appoint these monitors. And Integrity Pact has to be with all the suppliers from whom you are going to purchase the things, the common list of suppliers, you have to have an Integrity Pact. Handling of the complaints, I think, so whatever, if at all the complaints has to be there, it has to be written complaints. If it is not a written complaint, it will not be entertained, okay? And it should not be anonymous also. Already sir has told about the PIDPI Act. Just to go through this CCS conduct rules. That is very, very important. We never read. As a government employee, how many of you read this? Conduct rules, CCS conduct rules. See, that's what I have said. Government has given a lot of power to the administration. If administration feels any of the conduct, you will see lot many of things are there. Including how you behave outside. You take alcohol, that also comes under CCS conduct rules. Trading also, share market trading. Once or twice, thrice in a year, allowed. If you are daily trading, that can also attract CCS conduct rules, right? So lot many of rules are there, we never read. A big list of rules is there. So we have to be, as a government servant, we have to be clear. And in the vigilance, the conduct is also added into that. So that can attract a vigilance angle there. So conduct is also not only, as I said, taking money or taking bribe. That doesn't only that is vigilance or corruption, right? Other issues are also there that also as a government employee, we should be careful about that. Just as a big list. So this is important. Rule 3, every government employee shall all the times maintain absolute integrity. So that is the theme of this year. Okay, integrity, prosperity, nation's prosperity. Maintain devotion to the duty. Now this is very vague. Everything is vague. What is devotion? If madam decides XY employee is not having devotion, right? She can, if she can write, she can put it lack of devotion to the duty. It can happen. Employee coming daily late, not coming on time. That itself is a lack of devotion to the duty. Put an inquiry, disciplinary action. That can be done. Right. So as I said, there are a lot of things. So as a government employee, we should be aware. So do not nothing in becoming an unbecoming government servant, commit himself or himself. Like there's a big list. So maintain high ethical standards of honesty, maintain political neutrality. So as all of us are central government employees, right? So we think we can talk against state government. Can we? We cannot talk against state government also, and means policies and programs and all that. So as a government employee, we cannot, in a public, we cannot talk against state government also, right? So that can also attract all these things. So why I'm telling all these things? Because sir has taken the part. So this, like as an employee, how should we behave, or what the conduct should be there. So we will be preventing from all these kind of vigilance things and any disciplinary proceedings. So this is the list is there. Just I wanted to, because I have seen like many of the offices, like myself also, conduct rules. Nobody. When a memo is issues, okay, as per some rules, then they go out like which rule, why they have given, what is it, then they try to find out how to reply to that. So this is the big list. Okay, so that's it in short, like as what rules and what is the vigilance angle. Usually we, many of us don't know what can be a vigilance angle. And the main thing is like prevention is better than any taking the actions. So identifying areas of where corruption can be there, rotating all the things, sensitive list. That is the thing how you can prevent any further corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. To observe the Vigilance Awareness Week, ISI organized an essay writing competition on culture of integrity for nature's prosperity. May I request Professor Preeti Parashar to announce the name of the winners.
Thank all the participants, and I also congratulate the winners. So I'm just going to call out the names now. The first prize goes to Shrimati Khushbu Singh, who is an office assistant at ISI Delhi Center. She could not be present here today, so we will post the. She has joined online. Okay. Heartiest congratulations, Khushbu, if you are able to hear me. So we will post your certificate. Okay, the second prize goes to Shri Shoma Haldar. Is he here? Yes. Okay, so please come. So he's also an office assistant of ISI Kolkata. And I request Professor Pine if you could just hand over the certificate to me. Third prize goes to Shri Manoj Kumar Pandey, Senior Administrative Officer, also from the headquarters in Kolkata. And may I request Dr. Taklikar to So heartiest congratulations to all the winners. You will get the prize money in your accounts directly. Thank you.
Now, Sri Ravinder Kumar, Chief Executive Administration and Finance, will present the vote of thanks.
Yeah.
Very good morning. Respected Director, Professor Bandyopadhyay, part-time Chief Vigilance Officer, Professor Parasar, Chief Guest Paine, Professor Paine, Guest of Honor, Dr. Taklika, and dear colleagues and participants. On behalf of this institute, it is my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks at the conclusion of this meaningful event. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Professor Parasar, the part-time Chief Vigilance Officer, for leading this observance of Vigilance Awareness Week. The theme of this week, Culture of Integrity for Nation's Prosperity, has been an important reminder of the values we sport in our professional and personal life. Taking the integrity place by the workers of the institute is a significant step forward, reaffirming our commitment to these principles. As we continue in our role, it is our primary duty to add ethics and moral value into our daily conduct. By doing so, we become more responsible and accountable, not only to ourselves, but also to the larger interest of the institute. It is believed that a focused approach to preventive vigilance will foster transparent and accountable system that is crucial for the long-term prosperity of our institute. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the dignitaries, distinguished guests, and participants who actively engaged in the various activities conducted during this week. Your support and participation have been invaluable, and your presence has greatly contributed to the success of this event. Once again, I express my gratitude to everyone involved in the making this Business Awareness Week a meaningful and impactful occasion. Thank you.
Please rise for the national anthem.
शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा मंगल नायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे I'm living in